Hello, you're listening to Count Richard Van Cooben of Calergy. I have Cathy Lynch beside me today, who decided to go for a cruise with the Count. And thank you very much, Jackie. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule and your leaflet dropping in around the Dunleary area. So if you'd like to please tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running as a candidate.
Alright, well, thanks for the lift.
Oh, you're welcome.
Count? First time
I like to count.
Yeah, first time I've been in a car with such nobility.
Oh, you're welcome. My cloak is in the dry cleaners. You know, you have to settle for a Harrison jacket.
The cookies, I didn't bring the cookies, but anyway. So look, you know, like many others in my position, and as we were just talking,
yes,
you know, we've been at this now 4 years. I have. I've been out of the country for many years,
right,
actually. And I came back, but really only got involved in it 4 years ago. Wholeheartedly.
Right.
I work in a hospital.
Right.
And saw what was being pushed and how dangerous it was, and the lack of consent and the censorship. I was then really put out of work, and you know, this is where they made their big mistake, is when they put us all in lockdown, because we all started doing a great deal of research, or certainly I did.
Right.
This was also at a time where my father allegedly contracted the you-know-what, and was put on a ventilator and died in the very hospital that I worked in.
No way. The one you worked in?
Yep.
Right.
Now, at that point, I half believed what was going on.
Yeah.
But then I was in quarantine and lockdown and all the rest of it, and started doing a bit of research.
Yeah.
I'm always grateful to Gran Torino. He was the first one in Ireland that I got to see, because, as I said, I'd been away for so long. I'd kind of travelled the world,
right,
and didn't know the scene too much. But like so many people who are also running, I just got sick of not being heard or listened to. The disrespect, the contempt that we are being treated by the very people that are supposed to represent us. That it is very clear in my mind that they have sold our beautiful country out to the highest bidder, and they do not care about the Irish people. They are slowly killing us and replacing us, and they are bought in hook, line and sinker.
Right. Sorry, Cathy, if we go straight, is that one way?
Straight, yeah.
Sorry. The one-way streets around here confuse me.
God knows what they've done now, but you know, this is a beautiful town. I remember as a child when we were visiting the grandparents being down here. Yeah. My grandfather is a captain. He was the captain of a Guinness ship, the Lady Gwendolyn. You know,
Gwendolyn.
So yeah.
I remember Patricia and the other one.
The Lady Patricia as well. Yeah.
So Gwendolyn was the other one.
Lady Gwendolyn. Oh, it is now. and now, and here's the other thing. You know, once again they're firing ahead with these pointless laws on climate change, so to speak, when it really is just a veil to control us.
Well, I was at a meeting there recently. Eamon Ryan was at it, and it was in the Dropping Well pub. And I want to ask him a question: what percentage of the atmosphere was CO2? Yeah. And what percentage of it was man-made? And he refused to answer my question. Yeah. And he babbled on about parts per million, saying that, you know, it's 100 parts per million more now than it was when he was a child, which technically it's true. Yeah. And it's around 440 parts per million. Yeah. Which is at historically low levels. So when I politely interrupted him and said, with respect, Minister, you still haven't answered my question. What percentage of the atmosphere is CO2 and what percentage is man-made? The whole crowd turned on me and they started booing and hissing and jeering and all that. And I just said, hey folks, it's a legitimate question. But he refused to answer.
Well, you know,
Yes.
he either didn't know...
Oh, I think he knew exactly what
Yeah,
it is.
do you? Well,
absolutely, because it doesn't fit the plan to have people educated.
this is the question.
CO2 is plant food, it's not a pollutant.
And that's exactly it.
Yes.
And let's remember that we're at, what, 440 parts per million.
Yes.
At 150, plants start dying.
Correct.
You know, the earth is green 6%. Now, as you say, if you think he knew that.
Oh, I do.
But I asked that same question. In fact, it's on my flyer.
Wonderful.
If you notice, because it's actually quite a talking point.
Yes.
And I was speaking to my there you are, looking
Thank you.
orange. I was speaking to my brother and sister-in-law,
Yes.
who would be on the normie side of things and think I'm nuts.
You mean dropped on their head when they're babies and things like that, is it? Huh?
I don't know.
I know what you mean, money joke.
Do you know what? My brother is in a category of himself. He only thinks about today.
Okay.
You know, tomorrow is not important to him because it's gone. You know, and it's a nice way of living, to tell you the truth. But anyway, they were over from France.
Yeah.
You know, and they live up the Alps and do their skiing, so they're all, you know, clued into the climate.
Right.
And I said to them, and this is a question I think people should ask all the time.
Yeah.
What percentage do you think CO2 makes up of the atmosphere?
Exactly.
And my brother said 40%, and my sister-in-law said 20%.
Right.
And I will guarantee you that's probably the answer you're going to get from most
Absolutely.
people. And when I said 0.04%, of which a great deal of that is produced by oceans.
Right.
Go to the left here.
Well, only 3%, Cathy, is man-made. The rest is naturally
That's
occurring
it,
in
yeah.
nature.
So
So the question really
So
needs
3% of 0.04% is what I heard it was 4% actually, but anyway, because that makes 0.016% that they are trying to control and tell us
that's affecting the change.
that's going to affect the change.
Correct.
And now you see, and here's the other thing, because a lot of people will say, what are you running for? What can you do? They've no power, particularly in local authorities.
Right.
But there is a fantastic initiative going on in the UK, and it is gaining momentum.
I thought you were going to say gain of function there for a minute.
No, gaining momentum.
Yes.
As we are since the referendum here in this country.
Right.
In questioning the strategic planning of the councils, local councils, on their climate.
Yes.
And what they have done has been very, very effective, and more people are taking the reins. It started with a group called 7 Concerned Citizens. 7 is written out. And you can find out what they were doing, 7concernedcitizens.co.uk.
Right.
And what they've done is they requested to bring in a presentation to educate the councillors and the people at the council as to the advisory bias, because it turns out after a number of freedom of information requests that the only advice they're getting on climate is from the IPCC.
Right.
That makes
International Panel on Climate Change.
Exactly. The UN International.
Yes.
Yeah, IPCC.
Yeah.
That turns out to be what you call advisory bias. You cannot make a plan based on one opinion.
Right. Well, if I'm not mistaken, Cathy, at one of their meetings, one of the first announcements that they made, we're going to rule out the effect the sun has on weather. Huh? Like, that's like saying we're going to rule out the effect alcohol has on alcoholism.
Yeah, and let's turn back the tide while we're at it. But you see, I was actually chosen, would you believe? I thought this was, ironic for the Citizens' Assembly to debate the directly elected mayor, which they've already decided on.
Right.
Though we could say that we didn't want it, but we were led down, you know. I really felt being led at these citizens' assemblies.
Yeah.
But and they had a councillor at every table, you know, just to tell us how terrible it was and how no power they had.
Right.
And if we had a directly elected mayor, which effectively this directly elected mayor would have more power than the government.
Well, you actually hit on a very interesting point, because one of the things that I came across is a programme called the C40 Cities programme. Now, in case you think I'm stalking Eamon Ryan, I amn't. But at a meeting last November, I think it was, in Merrion Square, I put up my hand and I asked the question, has Ireland signed up to the C40 Cities programme? And he said yes. You know, now the C40 Cities programme was started.
Yeah,
basically it involves at the moment now about 92 cities around the world with a population of 1.8 billion, right? But ultimately it was set up by Bill Clinton and Ken Livingstone back in 2005 under the Clinton Climate Initiative, right? So effectively what it's doing is usurping democracy by using the office of Lord Mayor to push through, but in conjunction with a consultancy firm called ARUP, A-R-U-P. Sorry, Cathy, it's this way, isn't it?
I don't know if it. Yeah, we'll try if they haven't bloody done a one-way here as well to protect the climate.
Yeah. But
I will be asking questions on that if I ever get in. Let me tell you.
But that's what it was true. A consultancy firm called ARUP, which have 3 offices in Ireland, employing just shy of 600 people, in offices in I think 60 countries around the world, employing 17,000 people, and with projects in 90 countries around the world. So they're a really big organisation, and in conjunction with them, and I haven't seen any cars driving towards us. I think we're okay. There are. Excellent. Yeah. Do you remember the old Terry's ice cream down here?
Oh, listen, and they used to have the queue.
Yeah.
We may be here on Sunday, actually, round by the pier. Teddy's. Yeah, did you not say Teddy's?
Terry's.
Oh, did you? I thought you said Teddy's.
Yeah.
I was saying to the boys yesterday, we're helping with the flyers, that we'll probably be doing.
You'll be down here on Sunday, will
on Sunday, and I said we'll have to have a Teddy's. You know, you can't go to Dunleary without having a Teddy's.
Yeah, yeah.
And one of them says, I won't name names, but you know who I'm talking about.
I do.
Says we're in a war.
Okay.
I says, look, we may be in a war, but don't tell me we don't have time for a bloody ice cream.
Well, did Napoleon say an army marches on its stomach?
On its stomach, anyway.
So I'm sure that he meant ice cream as well.
I am sorry, I did not have that retort on my mind at the time. But
to go back anyway, for me, it's the C40 Cities programme, and they have, in conjunction with Leeds University, now ARUP has spent $300 million on this project, and it is recommending by 2030 that people will only be allowed one flight every 2 years, a meat allowance of 16 kilos per year, and a dairy allowance of I think 90 kilos, and for those of the fashionista variety, they'll only be allowed I think 3 garments per year, you know. So the whole point is that unless we push back on the modelling, and this is something I can't stress enough, even for those that are running as MEPs, to challenge the government on the climate modelling, and also, if I may, especially for the MEPs that will be representing more farmers than those living in the cities, is for the farmers to actually crowdfund amongst themselves, the likes of, say, the Connolly, their scientists, a family of scientists in Ireland, to crowdfund or have their own independent survey done on the fact that CO2 is not a pollutant, it is plant food, and an increase in CO2 may not necessarily be a bad thing, especially if you consider the slight increase in CO2 within the last 30 years has resulted in an increase in plant leaf cover. Cathy, we can go this way.
I don't know. That's going down now.
We'll see where we go.
Yeah,
because it's a nice stride.
This is where James Joyce starts.
That's right.
This is it's Sandy Cove. I don't know if I'll be delivering too many leaflets here. But you know, you see, here's the thing.
Yeah, go for it.
Count. Yes. And this is another thing I've just found out. The definition of maladministration.
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 Right. Okay, you can't go up that way, can you?
No, you're not going to get low. No, you won't, because I know that is a cul-de-sac. Which
right, thank you.
I think that's I'm giving you a clue.
Yeah, thanks very much.
I used to be down the 40 foot all the time.
Right.
Peaking. you know.
Yeah. Oh, really?
When we
You
was
naughty-
all
you
that.
naughty girl.
Well, you know, you were curious when
I know
you
what
were
you mean.
young.
Yeah,
They've ruined that now as
I
well.
certainly have.
You
There's
know.
another cul-de-sac down that way. so
Yeah, I think we'll be
we have to
going
go
that
this
way. You know.
Right.
All the wealthy people. So
Yep.
maladministration can be found in the Ombudsman's Act,
Right.
1980, Section 4.
Right.
And what it involves is if a public official has adversely affected a person, doesn't have to be more than one person,
Right.
and they have 7 other lists.
So
And
what's the difference between...
they acted
Yes.
without authority.
Right.
But
What's
here's
it called
the
again?
one,
Yeah, sorry.
it's the Ombudsman's Act,
Yes.
1980, Section 4.
Right.
That will give you the definition of maladministration.
Okay.
I did a bit of research on this because you can't...
Sounds like it.
They won't tell you. They won't tell you.
Right.
But I was actually looking at a ruling
Yes.
that was on maladministration.
Right.
Now, my favourite is 2A3, Section 2A3.
Right.
Which is if you make a decision that adversely affects somebody
Yes.
based on erroneous and incomplete information. That is the definition of maladministration.
Okay. And forgive me interrupting Cathy for a second.
Yeah.
What's the difference between maladministration and malfeasance?
Well, malfeasance is actually malfeasance is an intent, isn't
Gotcha.
it?
Okay. Knowingly doing wrong.
Knowingly, yeah.
Gotcha.
This is the harbour road.
Yeah,
isn't
it's
it?
not lovely.
I mean, it's just we live in a beautiful...
Absolutely.
For a capital city,
Yes.
this is Bullock Harbour. This is also my constituency.
Right.
How many people do you think will vote for me?
Loads.
Maybe the ones down at the Fishers,
Well, yeah.
But,
I took a boat from here out to Bullock Harbour once. Sorry,
Did
off
you
the
now?
island. We had a barbecue out on the island.
did you?
Yeah.
I went out with a guy in Dalkey and we used to canoe all over the place. Yeah,
And
all over the place.
Muglins and all that.
Around the Dalkey Island, and
beautiful.
the seals would peek their head up,
lovely, isn't it?
you know, to see.
Welcome
And
to
it was
Bullock.
silent.
Right.
You know, canoes were silent, so all
Of course,
the
what a lovely way.
you know,
of
it's
getting
just as
around.
I say, it's a stunning
Yes.
capital city
Yep.
that we live in.
So you're saying about this ombudsman?
So the ombudsman, this is maladministration, also unfavourable administrative practices,
Right.
like the immigration practice, for example,
Right.
and also any other unfavourable practices,
Right.
and indiscriminately discriminatory,
Okay.
or arbitrarily discriminatory. There's 7.
Right.
There are 7. First, as I said, Section 4,
Yeah.
1 is it has to adversely affect, and it is based on acting without authority,
Right.
acting with erroneous or incomplete information. Now, the IPC modelling, for example, has been wrong every single time.
Right. And
Every single time.
Michael Mann and his hockey curve and all that nonsense.
Absolutely, and the
Yeah.
97% consensus.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, are we going down the wrong way? Because all these cars
Oh!
seem to be
Oh,
parked.
there's a taxi behind me, so...
Is there?
Yeah, unless he's going
Yeah,
wrong.
unless
wrong way
every...
as well.
Oh, no, look, there's one parked the
You had me
other
going
way.
for a minute.
Well, that's the only car parked. Oh, no,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
You know.
So the IPC, so the modelling anyway, but
So they're modelling,
yes.
and in fact, there has been a study done
Yeah.
that has produced all their modelling and shown how incorrect it is.
Right.
And this is part of the 7 concerned citizens.
Right, but you reckon on straight, Cathy? Would that be the best?
Well, you can't go that way.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'd imagine
Okay.
it's a magical mystery tour.
Yeah, sure, why not? Sure,
Isn't it gorgeous? I love these.
You can never get lost in a place you've never been. Look at that
Well,
way.
yeah, that's a good way. Well, I've been lost in many places
Right.
I've never been all over the world.
Yeah.
But,
But anyway, if I may, actually, in relation to the IPC, it's also, as you say, as an example, like if you look at submarines, submariners are allowed to breed up to 5,000 parts per million, and yet there hasn't been one case of a submariner taking a case against any of the navies of the world.
Yeah.
You know, so when
You're in a room
Yes.
at a lecture.
right,
I've watched it. The temperature will go up,
Right.
or the CO2 levels
Right.
will go up and up. Oh, that's Dorky down there.
Well, we go down that way
yeah.
and take a look.
Yeah, because you go up the Vico Road and all the way.
Okay.
Other places I won't be delivering. Though I'd love to pop
Yeah.
one in Bono's door.
Yeah.
I don't know if you could even get near the letterbox.
He probably has somebody to read it for him anyway.
Yeah. Few people now. You're just going to have somebody down there or something.
Thank
yeah. So you'd have to go down that way now
We're going
with
in
that
this
black
way, is it?
car.
And what about
that
this?
way?
Where does that take us?
That'll. Oh no! In fact, that's up the Vico Road.
Yeah, we'll look that way.
It was a beautiful view.
Yeah.
Mind.
All right. Thanks. So we go left here.
No,
then?
up that way.
Up this way here, is
Yeah.
it? Gotcha. Thanks. Should we move
Finnegan's, another good pub.
Yeah.
This is up where the dart station is.
Right. So I'll be going left here then, is it?
No, follow the road.
Do you reckon?
Yeah, I do
Okay.
reckon. Follow it.
All right. You sure? I don't want to go to the
Remember
dart.
that you get me?
Huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, go on.
This is. I'm sure this is the road that brings you up to that magnificent view.
Right. Okay, that's
over
grand.
Dorky Island.
We'll go with that.
Is what it is. The Vico. Is it the Viking Road or whatever?
Right.
I don't think you have to indicate when you're going round a corner, darling.
Yeah. Okay. Save me electricity.
Well, the bulbs. It's a stunning place, straight.
Right. Straight on.
I think.
Thank you.
It is, yeah. It's a stunning place. You might not be, but anyway, I think we're going to head in the same direction.
Yeah. Actually, that's grand. I'm sure I'm enjoying the drive anyway.
Yeah.
You know?
I used to come down this way to walk the dog in Killiney Beach, and then I'd come back down. But we're in the general direction.
Yeah.
In fact, don't ask me for directions. I'm terrible.
No problem. So if we may go back to basics, Cathy, you had a background in medical, is that right?
Well, admin really. I worked in the hospital now, coming up 9 years.
Right.
I worked in the hospice before that.
Right.
But I did do a bit of travelling and around the world.
Yeah.
I left in the 80s. I was 17. I ran away with my boyfriend and went to the UK. Really, I always saw work as a means to get a few quid together.
Right.
Yeah, I think. To get a few quid together to travel.
Okay.
It was my dream. I just wanted to get out and see the world and experience a bit of life and find out what it is I wanted. Yeah. So we might end up at Killiney Beach actually this way, but anyway. So I've done an awful lot of travelling. I suppose I attended the University of Life.
Right.
But I've been in some interesting jobs when I think about it. I worked in the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development.
Right.
Just when Russia fell.
Okay, so you're talking about 89,
Tax-free
90?
salary, yeah. In the 90s, that was the life.
Okay.
And I also worked for places like Transport for London. I did their contingency plan, their emergency plan.
Yeah.
And of course the Irish were the biggest problem.
At the time.
At the time.
Yeah.
And I'm doing their emergency plan to get out of it.
Semtex.
And do you know what? I'm wondering, are we going to go up? We are. Do you know the guy who... Well, we'll see.
Okay.
Do you remember the guy who was out saving his... Yeah, go down that way.
Okay.
Saving his house.
Right.
With the big... he was a property developer and he was sitting outside.
Right, no, I don't.
And it was sold off.
Right.
No, it's not actually here.
Okay.
So I've done a lot of travelling.
Right.
I'm back now, 16 years,
Right.
and I came back to a very different...
What was your wake-up moment?
Well, it was a slow burn,
Right.
actually. I was learning my wake-up moment. My first penny, my first rabbit hole was the finance and the birth certs. The birth certificates and the how that worked and the straw man, which led me into the financial system, which led me into the legal system, and I was kind of learning things about that.
Strange shape, that house.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah.
So I was learning a bit, but even when I said, 4 years ago when the COVID came, it didn't dawn on me, really, that this was another psyop.
Right.
And certainly these last 4 years, I've done extensive. I'm a bit of an anorak, and I will do extensive study. I did the FE1s, which is the first examinations.
I'm going left here, isn't that right?
Well, I kind of think that's a fair way to go, wouldn't you?
Right. Well, it's funny. I'll tell you a story. I met a chap during the week. We had a very interesting chat, and he was telling me his wake-up moment was because he lived on approach to Dublin Airport. He couldn't get over the number of planes that were still landing during COVID.
Really?
There you go. Something as simple as that.
And it's always, I think, a lot of people's wake-up moments in the community, the normies, is the immigration thing.
Right.
I think the government has... I haven't a clue where we are, by the way.
Neither do I.
That might be up to Killiney Hill.
Okay.
I wonder that. I haven't been there for ages.
Right.
The only place you can bring a dog without a lead, apparently.
Is that right?
Allegedly.
Okay.
But, what were we saying?
You were talking about...
Oh, yeah, just... So, I wanted to know about laws, so I did the FE1s, which was an extensive. I did a degree, an honours degree in social policy and criminology,
Right.
I wanted to learn how they worked.
Okay, as in the mindset.
In the mindset and the system, how the system works.
Yeah.
Because we are in Babylon system.
Yes.
It's a godless system. It's a satanic system.
Right. Here we go. We keep going this way then.
Oh, now you're going to go to Killiney.
That's fine. Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
You're okay?
Go to Killiney Beach. Yeah. I'm fine.
Excellent.
Just kick me out of work. So I've done a lot of learning.
Okay.
And researching.
And what issues do you actually want to get elected on, Cathy? What are your main principles of
my underlining theme is that we've been sold out. Our politicians have been penetrated, as Klaus Schwab says.
I couldn't believe Tony Blair is now head of the World Economic Forum.
Well, not what I've heard that. Is that true?
Yes.
Because I've heard they're keeping it in the family.
Okay.
And it's the daughter that's coming.
Right.
Which actually shows that it's not some supernatural organisation.
Yeah.
It's a private, rich family group.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Well, I heard it's the daughter who is a chip off the old block, of course. They don't want outsiders.
Yeah.
That was the last I heard.
It wouldn't surprise me, though, to see Blair in something like that.
Oh, no, they're all going to. It wouldn't surprise me to see bloody Leo Varadkar in it. Because I'm sure he has a nice job.
A finger in that pie, if you pardon the expression.
In fact, I know exactly which way to go now. Because this is the way I used to go to walk the dog. So we go around. Go down that way, yeah.
Perfect.
That was for sale once, that little bridgey thing.
Yeah,
imagine living there.
They wouldn't accept my offer.
Would they not?
No, wasn't enough.
I bet it wasn't. Not in this area.
No. It wouldn't be very narrow to slip through that door, that's for sure.
Car or person?
Person. Isn't that lovely view now?
Yeah, it is. It's done, and this is Dublin. This is Dublin for you.
Yeah.
No better place, and as I said, I've travelled many countries, and Ireland is absolutely one of the top.
So you're saying anyway the immigration, top of the list
so,
would be immigration?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Now there are a number of things, as I said. We are being sold out and our voices aren't being heard.
Right.
I do believe climate is actually the noose that they want to hang everybody with.
Absolutely.
And they will probably use climate as the next lockdown and the next way to control us.
Well, listen, the Canadian government want to actually include climate have climate lockdowns written into the pandemic treaty.
And the
World Health Organization.
And the hate speech are also going to say that you can't deny climate change,
Yeah.
So we have all this going on. So that's going to be a big stick that's going to beat us with.
Right.
And we need to highlight the hypocrisy, the irrational and disproportional nature of their plans, plus advisory bias and predetermination.
Yes.
I want justice for the people who have been harmed and bereaved by those Gene therapies.
So taking the soup?
Absolutely.
Yes. So the government recommended soup. There were 4 different types of soup, and as an interesting now, 2 of those varieties of soup have been withdrawn from the market.
Yeah, quietly.
You know, quietly, and yes, you'd probably hear other people say,
and
"Oh,
they
thank God I didn't
coerced
get." Yes.
And harassed
Yes.
and bullied and blackmailed every man, woman, and child, none of which were actually at risk. And in fact, I've read the European Medicine Agency's letter on the parameters for the emergency use authorization, and they totally went against it. You know, and now people are left fighting. So the Independent have already, the mainstream slime, have already noted that there are 79 cases before the courts on the soup injury. Now, there's still 100 cases on the swine one before that. So, you know, until these people are challenged and challenged properly. But I want these people's voices heard. I want support groups. I want a compensation scheme, because I don't know how constitutional it is for a government to push, coerce, scare and force people. Go straight.
Thanks.
Force people into taking this experiment when they could not tell you what they did tell you.
Yeah, well, if you look, even if I may, Cathy, the fact that Pfizer they had a document, there was a 38-page document, and the last 9 pages of that document were of adverse reactions.
Of serious concern.
Yes.
Not all of them.
Yes, and also
I think we've done. You do better do a U.
You reckon? Yeah.
Yeah, we've
I don't
done
mind going out this way.
Well, I just had a route to go.
Serious?
Do a complete circle.
Oh yeah, that's perfect.
So do a U.
I will indeed. But
please.
Yeah, of course I will.
Don't want to come across all bossy now on there.
Yeah, no problem at all. I kind of lost my train of thought there.
Well, I was talking about how the injured and bereaved have been ignored. You know, and this doesn't mean just about this compensation scheme, which every other country has, and Ireland has been criticised for the last 10 years on it.
Sorry, I forgot. I remember what I was saying. It was the fact that Pfizer wanted these documents sealed for 75 years.
That's right.
And it was thanks to, I think it was a Supreme Court judge in Texas ruled that people had a right to know this information. So imagine that. But so I think that
and more horrific.
I'll go left here.
No, right.
Oh, right. Oh, perfect.
And more horrific. Papers have come out since with respect, for example, the pregnant women.
Well, I was talking to a lady, would have been during the summer of 2023, and she was a midwife, and I happened to mention to her, has she seen an increase in miscarriage? And she said, oh yes, it's up between 30 and 40%. All right? Now, I happened to mention to her that, I said, do you think it's anything to do with the soup? Anything, are people reacting to the ingredients of the soup? And she said, no, it's long COVID. You know? Yeah,
you see, that's the excuse. It's not the soup, it's long COVID.
Yes.
You know, which, by the way, other studies have found to be total bullshit.
Yeah. Well, there's a doctor
They've
in
no
Australia.
evidence to even say that.
There was a doctor.
Now, where that car is going, you go.
There was a doctor in Australia by the name of Luke McClinton, and he was head of their fertility department in the Mater Hospital in Brisbane, and he had said that he reckons that the rate went up after the soup up to 70%, and he was sacked from his job.
Yeah, they will not see it now. Look how beautiful our
good call there, Cathy.
Country. Well, this is. I used to come here first thing in the morning, just sun up, to walk the dog. And in fact, I was baptised in the Killiney. I wanted to go. I wanted natural. God, so I was baptised on Killiney Beach.
Right, well done you.
So, I will certainly, I'm a strong Christian with strong beliefs, and I do believe this is a fight of good and evil. Which is why, as I've said, Count, I have to stand up. Whether I can do something or whether I can't, I have to stand up and do something more than what we've been doing. And I do think that we can do. I think for starters, the local authority is the place where central policies are implemented. You know, Leo doesn't go around with a shovel. Yeah. It's the local authorities that do that. And I think if the local authorities start questioning things, like for example, when I was at the Citizens' Assembly and I spoke to a councillor in Dunleary, and they would tell us about the power they don't have. And she said, they have all the way along the coast there that we've just been seeing, where the train station is, they want to develop.
No way.
Right, the central government wants to develop this, including Eamon Ryan and the Greens.
Right.
Now that apparently is zoned, it's a zero zone, which means it is not for development.
Gotcha.
And the council goes straight. But mind this car, cars coming up. But you have right away. They have to stop. Now we're going to see the guy, the developer. There was a big they took his house from him when they were, and he stood outside. This will be here. They have urns. I don't know if they're gone now because unfortunately the house is gone. But anyway, what was I saying?
You're talking about local government and that they want to develop all around the seafront.
Yeah. So and she was saying, so all the councillors.
Yeah.
She was a Vico house, and this was it here. This was the house.
Oh, the urns are still there. Wow.
Yeah, beautiful, stunning views. You know, I mean, like this is the rich folk. This is where Bono lives and all the rest of them.
And all the tax that they don't pay.
So all the councillors voted against it. This redevelopment, and so did the CEO.
Okay.
Because there's two votes: the councillors and the CEO.
Yeah.
And the central government vetoed it.
Right. Wow.
But I turned around and said to this councillor, I said, so they want to develop all around the coast, but what about the sea rising that they keep telling us? Oh, she says, I never thought about that. Right. And I thought, well, why didn't you?
Yeah.
Why didn't you ask these questions? You know?
Yeah.
And that's what they don't.
Okay.
You know, so it's on the government veto, so what can we do? Well, we can do damn well a lot.
Yeah.
We can say, well, what about the sea rising?
Yeah. Because obviously it's bullshit.
Absolute bullshit. Yeah. You know, I mean, so we know. Now wait till you see the view coming up here.
Pilgrim Rock hasn't gone up any. I mean, the same way if you get a glass and you fill it with ice and you let it melt, the level of it drops because the density between ice and water is different.
And also water finds its own level. But Eamon Ryan is trying to tell us that some areas of Ireland are going to suffer higher sea rise than others.
Yeah, amazing, isn't it?
You know, and people fall for it.
Yes.
So there are many, many questions to be asking.
Yeah.
People who are actually on the ball. And I think the people that have been in there, and I think the vast majority of them, I want to educate a lot of the people in there.
Sure.
Because I do think people are reasonable people when they're given the facts and not operating in fear or bias or just sheer evil.
You remind me of a story there. I met a chap once who was actually a town planner, came up in conversation, and I said, do you think the 15-minute city is a good idea? And he was singing its praises and all that. And I said, well, I'm assuming this is because of climate change, is that right? And CO2 and all that. And he said, yes. So I asked him, I said, back to your question again. I said, well, what percentage of the atmosphere is CO2? And he said, I suppose it's between 15 and 20%. All right? So when I had to tell him what the real percentage was, I said, effectively, you're introducing policies without actually knowing what the problem is. I said, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Needless to say, he didn't like that as a comment.
Well, this is, but you know, that question is an important question because it actually opens the door to debate.
Correct.
Without, you know, unless somebody is skin in the game and starts getting angry. Yeah. But because I say, look it up. Yeah. If you don't believe me, look it up.
Yeah.
But most people are quite surprised. Yeah. And are kind of, it actually opens the door a little for them.
Yeah.
Do the left here.
Yeah. But it's amazing, like what I can't understand, I mean, we're given the gift of common sense. Why has it become less common? You know, what's wrong with people's thinking process?
Because, well,
have they been dumbed down?
The fluoride, fluoride. You know, if you were to look at how the government have made us reliant on them
Right.
for everything, for the information.
Too much government.
Absolutely, from cradle to the grave, and they give us a world view that doesn't make sense. I mean, you even look at children when they're being told something.
Yeah.
Follow that white car.
Would you remember Ronald Reagan?
It doesn't make sense. So they're confusing you, and they're using fear as well.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to operate optimally.
Right.
When you're bombarded, firstly with poisons, you know, either being intravenously or from the skies or from the waters. So we have all these chemicals. We have the EMF. We have the electromagnetic frequencies. We have the bad food. You know, they are basically making us into suboptimal beings.
Right.
So they can control us. The more they confuse us, and like it was the CIA director that said,
MK Ultra.
We know we've done our job when everything people
Right.
believe is false.
Okay.
And they're nearly there.
He's on his phone, that guy. Imagine that.
Imagine.
Sorry.
Yeah, so, you know, they've fed us false information, a false view of life, of a world view. And like, it's hard to think straight with the bombardment. You know, and as the Bible says, we do need to get out of Babylon.
Right.
But you have to know what it is. You know, and to just...
So how do we affect change, Cathy? What do we do?
Well, you know what? As I was saying, we've been out protesting with our boards, with our flags.
And I still have your autograph board.
Oh dear! And by the way, I have mine. Mine too. Mine too.
I bought a marker that day just for that occasion.
Me too. And I remember looking after that in another board where you went off for a pint. Leaving me there on my own.
No.
Anyway, and go straight.
Thanks.
So 1894, that building now.
Lovely, isn't it?
And you know, these movements are good for networking. But I think we have evolved now. And I think it is exciting times. Although there has been the detractors, the people who think we're getting into the system and into the beast and betraying. You know, we have to do something different now.
Well, I think we're in the last chance saloon, Cathy.
And I think it's an exciting time. And I think Ireland is the only country that is actually putting forward about 200 ordinary citizens like me. You know, who love their country, who see what's going on and wants to try and affect change in some way. None of us are going in thinking we're going to change the world.
Were you here for the Luke O'Neill book launch?
I missed it. I missed it, unfortunately.
The far right came to town.
Oh, God. And the crowd in Dalkey were bog-eyed with them all.
You know, one guy was driving by. I've had 4 bowls of soup. And I'm still alive.
I know.
On now.
So go straight, and then you're going to go around to the right, because we're going to end up down that road.
Right. Who's got? Oh, okay, I think he was going that way.
Well, he has a yield sign there on the ground. Not that anybody knows that. As I said, I mentioned to you, I'm one of 6 women in the country.
6?
Well, I was 10 years ago.
Right.
Follow the road. To do an advanced driving, and we'll wait till this person decides.
See your man. Sorry, go ahead.
And then you're going down, you see the Dunleary sign there.
Just want to see Barry Andrews, right? And I see his posters, right?
How much does that cost?
Well, all I can think of, his wife made 1.14 million in 4 years dealing with asylum claims. So there you go. That to me speaks volumes.
You know, they are all traitors. They have sold out. They have sold the Irish people out. They care not about our country, our people, our culture, or our traditions. And I can tell you, you know, and here's the other thing: we're all in contact. All our independents and our nationalists and our Irish Freedom Party and our Irish People Party and the nationalists. You know, we're all in contact. And throw enough mud, some of it is going to stick.
Sure.
We may not all get in.
Yeah.
I'm in the only constituency that voted yes in the referendum, so I ain't holding my breath. But throw enough mud and it's going to stick. And these people are going to have their own little group.
Yeah.
You know, that will be from all the different councils that will be having a chat.
It's a grassroots movement.
It is a grassroots movement. We've got to try something different.
Yeah.
We don't think, you know, we're going to make any sweeping changes, but it's a start.
Yeah. Well,
and this is how every movement starts.
Yes. But if you think that the fall of the British Empire actually began in Ireland in 1916, and the effect that actually had, right? Now, could you imagine the fall of the World Economic Empire starting with what happens in Ireland as well?
Yeah.
And that's, you know...
I think it's the only... it's the only country that's doing it. I think it's a country of a size that we are able...
Right.
To actually maybe affect some change or put the willies up them.
Yeah.
Because I think they're running scared.
So do I. I mean, the last two referendums were a proof that they really never saw that coming. And they thought they had it in the bag because they effectively had there was no publicity from the government point of view.
They thought they had it so. They thought they had us so mesmerised and full of disinformation.
Yes.
That everybody would vote according to their woke agenda.
Yeah.
And I think that's the only thing, that their tactics didn't work.
Correct.
And that's the one thing I'll always say about the Irish people.
Yeah.
Even though a lot of them won't maybe stand up because they don't want Biddy across the road talking about them.
Yeah.
But they will at the electorate.
When nobody sees them.
When nobody sees them.
But that's the problem as well. Like, if I may, Cathy, that one of the things is that the lack of courage in people. People have lost their courage. And they need to stand up. They need to have their line in the sand and say, no, it's not happening. This isn't happening. I'm not going any. And to say no. To learn to say no. And that's across the board. And you can see, even if I may, I think COVID was actually... The only good thing I think came out of COVID was that I think one...
Can you say that? Huh?
No, it separated wheat from chaff.
Yep.
Between those you can depend upon, those you can't.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
And what it also did is it brought a lot of... patriots together.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing they wanted to keep. That's why the lockdowns and all the rest of it. They wanted to keep us separate. They didn't, and the pubs, they didn't want us talking.
Of human interaction.
Yeah.
Like, I met a chap recently, and he was all in favour of AI, and he was saying, could you imagine having a little box? He says to me, you seem to be quite an intelligent chap. How foolish he was. But he seemed to be quite an intelligent chap. And he says, how would you like to have a little box that would be able to, ask questions, to be like a friend and all this nonsense, right? So I let him babble on and give the sales pitch and all that. And I said, well, to be honest with you, what you are describing, in my opinion, is the definition of hell. He said, to me, we're actually on a journey between ignorance and enlightenment. Why would you want to take the joy of discovery of that light bulb moments in life away from people to replace it with a little box?
Yeah.
And I said, I guarantee you, with that kind of what you're proposing, you will have a suicide rate far higher than it is now because of that.
Yeah.
You
never have to try. That's how humans develop.
Correct.
Is taking the chance, taking the risk to get in the plane or to whatever, to get under the water, whatever.
Yeah.
It's half the joy is the journey, not the destination.
Correct.
But they don't want that. They want andrometons. Androgynous.
Yeah.
Auto.
And consumers.
Oh yeah, to a certain extent, but they do want to kill 80% of us off, because they can't control 80%. That's the problem.
But that was, if I may, another thing regarding...
Do you know where you are now?
Yeah, I do indeed. We go left to the lights here, isn't it?
Well, you can do, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I do,
Gotcha.
yeah.
So
my grandparents lived up there.
Right. That, if I may, that... The other thing about I could never understand with this mass migration is that if they're so concerned about climate change, what effect is it bringing millions of people from an area of the world where they can't consume into an area of the world where they can?
Yeah.
And as you say, this whole thing about allowing people to vote is nonsense, absolute nonsense.
Well,
that will
tell you. Yeah.
And the other thing as well, if I may, Cathy, that if we give an overseas aid, we give over €1 billion a year in overseas aid. Terms and conditions of that should include the repatriation of people who are deemed not to be suitable here. You had a judge there back, I think, Judge Deacon, I think his name was, And dealing with asylum cases, I think he said that he rejected 93% of them. You know?
Yeah.
And once they got him out of the job, it reversed.
Yeah.
And So
because it is without a shadow of a doubt a plan to provide the vote to refugees and asylum seekers as soon as they land on this shore, not knowing anything about our country, anything about our politicians, anything about the issues. But they're getting their nice cozy money and house and legal fees and medical. Who are they going to vote for? So what they're doing is they're importing an electorate, and it's very clear. Because there is no reason in making a mockery of the voting system to give people who can't even speak the language and who lost their documents, 85% of them, over the Irish Sea. When we know 100% of them had them boarding it.
Well, that's the problem then.
Or Northern Ireland.
The governments should be fining airlines that if somebody gets off a plane without documentation, €20,000
But the government are the people traffickers.
Well, that's true.
They are the ones facilitating it.
Absolutely.
That is it. Without a shadow of a doubt, they're facilitating it.
And look at all the children who went missing in Tussla.
22
Well,
I think it's a huge people trafficking and child sex trafficking ring. And I think a lot of this is an excuse to pile, orphan children, allegedly orphan children, and there's more and more. I mean, there's 6,000 children have gone missing in our country.
6,000?
6,000.
In what
since
time frame?
Records.
Right.
6,000 who've never been found.
Right.
We're only a country. We're only a small country. 6,000.
Right.
I believe that there may be, Ireland, they have allowed Ireland to be a cesspool. And I think, child sex trafficking, I think there's a lot of that, more so than we know going on in this country. And this refugee is just an example of that. Because they've lost a whole load of refugee children, haven't they?
Yeah, that's right. 22 in 1 month. Was it Padder Tobin brought that up in
you do the right of the nice here.
And he also mentioned about the young girl that disappeared at the age of 14, and she was found a year later in a brothel. That's frightening.
And that's not just the refugees, that's our kids as well. And there's children that you just don't hear of. Because they choose them wisely, Grandparents lived in an apartment there. Rented. They always rented, They were a good breed, but they never bought.
Well, it's probably affordable rental. That's the difference. Whereas now it's not affordable.
Oh yeah. Oh God, yeah. But they were always that. So really, as I said, Count. A lot of us are throwing our hats into the ring. We're doing something a little different. It's all new. We don't know, but we do come with a passion and a love of our country and our people, and a knowledge of knowing what they're up to. And also, as I said, I've done a great deal. I am a real fan of the martial arts ethos. Use your opponent's own weight to unbalance them.
I like it.
And they have many laws that you can unbalance them. They're just walking all over them because nobody has challenged them. We haven't had a Raymond Crotty or what's her name, Ryan, who challenged the fluoride, although she lost. We haven't had these ordinary citizens who have come up and challenged the establishment up to the Supreme Court to any, great extent. Well, we haven't actually.
Well, the problem as well, I think the judiciaries are appointed, aren't they?
Well, the OECD have actually come out with a report and said because they're appointed in this country that they have the potential to be crossing that line, blurring the lines of separation of powers.
Gotcha.
The courts look very seriously on a blurring of the lines between the three pillars: the executive, the legislature,
Right.
and the judiciary.
Right.
And if the judiciary won't go near anything that they believe is in the government's remit,
Right.
and the government shouldn't be going into anything that they believe the courts should be in.
Right.
And this was one of the issues with the referendum, because what the government was trying to say is, no, let the judges make the law when the courts come to decide
for a minefield.
what is durable.
Yeah.
I know, and cost.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the people will be, quids in,
And I
and
think
we'd be quids out.
But I have to say, like, a rock of common sense through all of that was actually Michael McDowell. You know?
Yes, he was.
Brilliant.
He absolutely was brilliant. Talked a great deal of sense.
Yes.
You turn this off, sure.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. I think, Cathy, I'm going to pull in here now, all right?
Yeah.
And I just want
You're
to say...
going to make me walk home now, are you?
No, I wouldn't be that cruel. But I just want to thank you very much for having a cruise with the Count, and I wish you well in your campaign. I really do. And
Thank you.
try havoc.
I'll do my best. I enjoyed our little journey, even though my arms are tight. He made me hold the camera, people.
I know, I left my tripod at home, if you pardon the expression. All right, good afternoon, good luck from Cathy and I. God bless.